Take a moment to shine on Happy Camper Life. We're loving, living, and learning online on Happy Camper Life.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the My Camp podcast. I am Courtney Ortiz, your host of My Camp, and I'm so excited to be back live in the Girls HC because I'm dying to talk camp, and so I'm so excited to introduce my new camp bestie, Danielle Fox, who is the executive director of Mount Olivet Rolling Acres. Do you have a camp origin story? I feel like everybody has a good camp origin story. What's your camp origin story?
Yeah, that'd be great. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me. Mount Olivet Rolling Acres, or MORA, actually started with camp. Our origin story starts as being the first camp for children with disabilities in Minnesota, which is pretty awesome. We started in 1954, actually. The summer of that year, there were a number of families that had gotten together, that had children with developmental disabilities, and they just wanted something more, something different for their kids. And obviously, summer camp and many, many other things for people with disabilities at that time were sort of off the table. And so these families came together and just created something that didn't exist. They bought a campus that was on Schultz Lake in Victoria, Minnesota. And they came together with themselves and with some staff and just provided a really good fun time for their children. And so we talk about Mount Olivet Rolling Acres, or MORA, as an organization that serves a wide variety of people, but we really started with camp. And every summer we invited campers back throughout the 50s and the 60s and even throughout today, but it really developed over time into a number of other services for folks. But I think it's so cool to think about the years of service that we have done, especially at that point in time, in the 50s and well into the 60s and even the 70s. Lives for people with disabilities was very, very different. Most people were in institutional settings that were very poorly funded, and really kind of a dehumanizing experience. And so this whole concept of providing children with developmental disabilities a camp, when it was sort of just a new thought to even normalize the existence of them in the community, was really pretty monumental in its time.
And that was the first thing I thought about when you said 1954. I was like,
yeah,
you were taking your family members with disabilities and you were putting them away. They don't exist, sending them to
right.
institutions. You were not parading them in front because it was, the stigma with that. So you were like well ahead of the time and really setting the stage for, what we all know now, that that individuals with disabilities, have abilities, and to be able to give them what a summer opportunity. Wow.
Very, very much so. I think, again, these families, they wanted something different. And so it really took a lot of imagination and some creativity and quite a bit of resources that they pulled together to create that cool environment for their children.
So tell me, what is MORA today?
So MORA today is a fairly large organization in Minnesota. Our vision is to drive disability community service standards across the Midwest. And so we provide a number of services directly, like camp. We also support individuals with a wide variety of disabilities, as well as aging seniors in the community. And so we have 32 residential sites where people live with us permanently. And many of those folks have lived with us for 30, 40, 50, even 60 years, which is pretty incredible. We also provide case management services and other community support. So our team members go out into the community and support people who are living in their own home, or maybe they're still living with mom and dad or another caregiver. We have a crisis team across the metro that supports individuals with disabilities and occurring mental health needs. And so when someone is having some of their most difficult times with themselves or with a family member, they can contact our team to help sort of navigate those services. And then we do just a lot of other things that the community has asked for over time. I think our camp story tells it well. Of MORA has just been a place where we've created services that didn't exist. And so we have other things like day supports and other resources available to folks. But we are kind of growing and evolving to meet the needs of whatever is missing from the disability community.
necessity is the mother of invention, right? And
Yes.
that is really an underlying theme to, I've talked to a lot of different camps, and that is an underlying theme to how these camps started, because there was a need in the community. So let's talk about camp. So
Yeah.
does your MORA camp have like a special like name? Talk to me about your camp program.
Yeah, so we call our camp Discover Summer, and we are a day programming. So campers come usually for the full day. We have camps rotating as far as groups of people throughout the summer, and they might have a camp week. We have, like I said, we're on a lake facility, and so it really is about creating sort of an environment where kids can be kids and just enjoy a Minnesota summer. And so the typical things around the lake of swimming and fishing and boating. But really, our camp is flexible based on individuals' needs. So we support individuals with autism currently in our camps. And, autism it affects children in different ways at different points in their lives, and even different each day of the week. And so our camp really is designed to be able to morph and really meet that child with whatever they need that day. If they like to go jump on the trampoline, they can do that. If they like to spend the day in the water, they can do that. If they like to play games or interact with other campers or our staff, it really is sort of flexible based on what their interests are, what they need, and kind of what they feel like doing that day. I think we have enough structure where we've got various paths where campers can go in any given on any given day, but we really value that flexibility.
And you're really giving them a traditional camp experience minus the sleepaway, the sleep portion. You're on a lake, you're playing games, you're doing arts and crafts, like you're jumping on trampolines. Those are all the same activities that you would see, across the board. So how many campers do you see during a session?
So it really varies. Again, we're doing this based on community need. And so we really try to take stock of what parents in the community are looking for. Camp at MORA is extremely valuable to our campers, of course, but it also supports families in providing some respite over the summer when families maybe just could use a break or have other things that they need to take care of. Camp is an opportunity for that. And so more recently, we've had much smaller camp size groups because individuals have not been able to find camps that fit their sometimes extreme needs. And so we sometimes have 2 staff for every 1 camper. And so we could have camps that are really just a handful of folks that week, but can really provide some intensive personalized supports. And then it sort of rotates around throughout the summer what those needs are.
Because I will say, the staff that comes in to work with autistic kids or work with kids with special needs, like they are there for all the best reasons. They are there because they have a passion for it. They are going to school for it. So that 1 to 2 ratio is, you're getting the best of the best, because I see that also as like a theme when I'm talking to camp directors of camps that specialize with a certain, at needs population. And just friends of mine that have kids that are on the spectrum, you can't put a price on a quality summer program. Like it really can make or break the kid and the family, so
Yeah.
what you're doing is just incredible. So because you have a population with autism, what is your day like? Is it structured? Is it not structured? I know even their individual needs can differ in terms of what they like.
So it is structured in that we're meeting with these individuals that we're serving and their families, and really digging into what do you like, what do you not like, what's challenging for you, where do you want to create some new opportunities? And so our camp structure is based on what those needs are. And we can adjust, like I said, from day to day based on how folks are doing from one day to the next. But typically we will have staff welcome campers in the morning, and then their day is planned based on that. So they may have some inside time where they're working on a project or doing a craft. Our staff are incredible at creating these just wonderfully creative things that I would never think of personally, but they have these beautiful brains that work in a way that allows them to create art and have engaging activities. And they can do that inside if, maybe it's raining that day, or if someone really wants to be outside and just get into the water, they can do that. They will oftentimes structure things in a way that helps support children with autism get through that day, right? So if we know that someone really loves to be in the lake, but obviously they can't be out in the sun for 8 straight hours, we might structure some time in the morning for them to be outdoors and go swimming. And then we would maybe have a lunch break so that there is a way for them to help encourage someone to get out of the water and help keep them safe and out of the sun for a bit of time. So it really depends on what that structure looks like based on the person. We have the facility created in a way that people can have individualized space if they need to. So we have sensory rooms and equipment that is available. But as you know, of having friends that have children with autism, it really depends on who they are and what they would like to do that day. But I gotta say, our staff are some of the greatest. I mean, camp in general, working with children you need a lot of energy to do it. And these are physically exhausting jobs. They are mentally hard, but these guys come at this work with just a passion and a skill level that I think is just unmatched. So we're just so grateful for our team.
So your camp is set up, you said it's a day program, and is it a week session? Do they go for a week at a time?
Typically it's a week at a time, yes.
Do some kids go all summer for multiple weeks, or is it really they just kind of do one and done?
Yeah, so it depends. We really try to get as many campers in so that they can have that experience as possible. But if family members or would like to have multiple sessions, we can oftentimes allow for that. Not always, just because of the demand. But typically, they would be coming for a week session, and they would be there for that day programming and go home at night and then come back the following day.
How do you make the weeks different? Talk to me about your programming.
Yeah. So again, these creative minds of our staff, sometimes they'll do theme weeks. Obviously it will be dependent on weather. So sometimes that changes the game plan. They really are great at mixing it up. I think they do a nice balance of creating sort of a dependable, familiar environment that has structure. I think that's important to many of our campers to know what to expect, but then to sort of throw things that are new and different in there. And I think we've seen our campers grow in ways that are just really fantastic to see with children with autism. We have some where maybe making social connections is really challenging, and they leave camp with some of their greatest lifelong friends, which is just incredible. You've got people who maybe they're not an outside person and they would like to just be indoors all the time. But I think our staff really do a nice job of creating bridges to help get people engaged in things that they wouldn't be doing at home.
Tell me a good, your best, your go-to heartwarming story that you tell when you're talking about camp.
I love the stories from parents who just talk about how their child is telling their camp stories all year long. It is the middle of winter and camp is long gone and it is not coming back for another 6 months, but they are talking about the stories about they went on the boat and they went fishing. These are really simple things, right? And luxuries that a lot of kids have. But for children with disabilities, that doesn't always exist. And so I love the stories about when campers are getting ready to come back, and parents will tell me, they planned their outfit out 3 weeks in advance, and we've made sure that is there and ready to go day of when we start. We've got campers whose dream it was to catch a fish off the boat, and our camp staff were able to make that happen. I don't know how great the fishing is on Schultz Lake, but I gather that it's not always a daily occurrence where some of this happens. So just being able to help people live out their dreams. And I think the connections that are made are one of the most beautiful things. We have campers that have been together for years and years. We have campers that have been together maybe one summer, but they still keep in touch with each other. I think also watching the bonds between our staff and our campers is really just kind of a beautiful thing, because I think you've spoken about this before on your podcast, but just watching the influence that your campers have on your staff, who are, sometimes young and developing themselves as professionals and learning about what it's like to work with, to support someone with a disability can really help them lift up their overall profession and help them define what path they want to go on. And so I think those relationships and where they have brought people after camp are some of the most powerful stories that I hear.
Universal themes. Wherever camp, whoever your campers are, wherever you're located, it's connections, it's relationships, it's growth, it's all of it. So I love it. We could talk about this all day.
Yeah.
So being so being a day program, do the kids bring their own food, lunch, or do you provide lunch? Because food can be a really big part of camp.
Yes. So campers bring their own meals throughout the day, which, as you've noted, can be important for our campers to make sure, again, they know what to expect. They have things that they like that are going to work for them. And so that's been sort of what we've done in the most recent past, especially working with this population, is have them bring their own lunch. So,
okay. So there's no fun camp snack or anything that the kids,
they will host fun events like an ice cream party or something like that. And if someone's interested in that and they enjoy that, they can participate or they can choose not to, and that's okay. But yeah,
I love that choice.
Choice. Who knew?
Right. Just as a side, I interviewed a long time ago a director of a camp, and gosh, I don't remember the name of it at this moment, but it was a camp for neurodivergent children. So I was like, well, what? And it was a residential. So I was like, so what time does Reveille blow? And he's like, well, we don't do that here. We don't blow the Reveille. Okay. We just kind of have and I was like, oh, that's awesome. So choice is really, really great. So what do you do if a camper has a birthday? I mean, it's a big deal. Camp birthday.
Oh gosh, I don't know that I've got a good birthday story, but I think our staff, again, just celebrate the daily moments and the big moments. We'll have, whether it's a camper birthday or you finally caught that fish, we just have some of the most energetic and passionate staff where, if balloons are your thing or decorations and streamers, wonderful, they might sing a song in celebration or, just other things that they, again, have learned from the camper of how they like to receive some of that. And it might not be loud. It might be quiet. It might just be, we're having a conversation about, we're really excited because it's your birthday.
Because those daily tasks are a big deal.
Yeah.
Those daily things for them.
Yeah, but building in those celebrations within our team, with our staff, and with the families, when they pick them up each, some of the stories about those parents saying, I never thought that my camper would be able to do this or want to do this. And somehow their shell and they've experienced something that's really new, which that excitement sort of runs through the family, and I think is what they talk about now in November when there's.
It's true. That's what we're talking about. That's what we are talking about. Do you have staff that return every year?
So we have 2 staff on our team year round, and so they run our camp programs as well as a number of other recreational opportunities. And then we have a group of team members that some of them return each summer. Some of them maybe are here with us a couple summers in a row, and some of them are new to us. So we have sort of a nice mix of new energy and new ideas, as well as some of the historical knowledge that we can build on so that we can just continue to get better.
All about it. And that's the thing of another universal theme, growth, whether you're a staff or a camper, you do not leave the same person that you started with, whether it's first summer or I'm going into my 8th. So, So tell my listeners, how can we find out more about your program? How can we get involved? What do you need, Danielle?
So I think the big thing about Discover Summer and MORA in general really is that we've created this camp and we've created these programs with partners. It's nothing that anyone can do on their own, back all the way back from 1954 when families came together to shape camp together. We need partners. We need people to help us do this together. And so today in Minnesota, actually, it is Give to the Max Day. And so it is sort of a Minnesota state kickoff of fundraising that helps support a number of Minnesota nonprofits. I think I read last night that they've supported over 14,000 nonprofits over the year with or over the years with over $300 million in funding. And so our big ask today is help us provide some support for Discover Summer so that we can continue to improve, to make things better, and so that we can continue to be here for years to come. One of the great things about our camp is that it's accessible to families. There are, of course, a number of camps out there, but some of them are fairly expensive. And so we really work to make our camp as affordable as possible. And we can't do that without our donor support. And so that would be a great help to us. We also have a lot of information on our website at moracares.org, which talks about Discover Summer as well as a number of other programs. But we also love ideas from our partners if they have things that have worked well for them. How can we help support kids in Minnesota with disabilities at Discover Summer?
Love it. Because guys, the camp, what they do for the camp is just a small, not a small, but it's just one part of what MORA provides for individuals with autism. So I really, please check it out. Check it out. I encourage you to find out more because it's really impressive, really very impressive. Danielle, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me today. It was really a pleasure learning more about Discover Summer. I'm sure
Thank you so much for having me.
You're already thinking about 2025 because I know I'm so excited. So here's to a great winter, and I'll save us more for you.
Yes, thanks so much. Great to meet you.
And guys, thank you for joining me here on My Camp. If you love my Camp podcast and you want to hear more, you can listen to anywhere. I mean, you can listen to my podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts, right? Apple, Spotify, we're there. So My Camp on Happy Camper Live. You can also catch us on YouTube and follow us on Instagram and TikTok and all those great things. And I'll see you next time, and I'll save us more for you.
Take a moment to shine.